Max Verstappen's Sao Paulo Grand Prix performance is being lauded as one for the ages. In conditions that ended the Drivers' Championship challenge of Lando Norris, stifled the master of the wet Lewis Hamilton, and wrecked many lesser drivers, Verstappen rose above it all to dominate an incredibly challenging race. After a week of criticism, it was a perfect way to silence his critics. Yet a cheeky comment in the post-race press conference riled up the British media. Some comments about pro-British bias by the FIA have also been responded to in the most ridiculous manner. And today, I'll check it all out, so don't go anywhere. Verstappen's win from 17th on the grid in Sao Paulo will go down in the history books. It was a performance that any of F1's greatest drivers would be proud of. Formula One has a history of incredible wet weather drives. We all still watch the compilations of them on YouTube from time to time, and this drive by Verstappen will rightly earn its place on every one of those in the future. The context around the performance made it all the more impressive and important. As the years go by, that context will fade, and just the performance will be left. But for now, the faltering performance of Red Bull and the lambasting Verstappen has received by the media only add to the feat performed in Sao Paulo. This was all set to be the race that Verstappen lost the Drivers' Championship at, but instead, he put in a performance worthy of winning it. Unsurprisingly, Verstappen's Red Bull team principal, Christian Horner, didn't hold back with his praise. He compared Max's performance to that of Ayrton Senna at Donington in 1993, when the Brazilian produced a drive in horrendous conditions that set him apart from the rest after an opening lap when he thrust his way into the lead and was untouchable. Today was an emotional rollercoaster, Horner said. Max's mental strength and attitude to deal with that is outstanding, and his start was electric. That first lap was up there with Donington 93. I think he passed 6 cars on the first lap. The performance was outstanding. His car had as much propensity to lock up as any other, but his sublime touch to brake late and manage to turn in without doing so was the difference maker and raised his drive to another level. As McLaren's Oscar Piastri observed, he seemed to be pretty much the only one that could overtake. As Norris said, if Verstappen had started at the front, he probably would have lapped the McLaren. Horner might have rated Verstappen's drive up there with Senna's Donington Park performance, but it could easily have been compared to the great man's Estoril performance in 1985, one that Senna thought was his best. There, he lapped the entire field, bar Michele Alboretto's Ferrari, and finished a minute ahead of him, in conditions that would have stopped the race today. For Max to pull off that performance after a week of getting absolutely slated by the media for his performance in Mexico, and with the Drivers' Championship on the line, was something else. In an unbroadcast team radio message after the checkered flag, Verstappen's engineer Gianpiero Lambiase made a clear reference to the post-Mexico backlash. He felt that the 3-time champion had done his talking on the track. Lambiase said, "And that is how we silence them," to which Verstappen replied, "Exactly." Then, in the post-race press conference, Verstappen took the opportunity to take a shot back at the media, who had rained criticism on him all week. "I have a quick question. I appreciate you all being here, but I don't see any British press. They've had to run to the airport, or they don't know where the press conference is?" His comment was greeted with roars of laughter from those present, and while it was a joke, Verstappen knew exactly what he was doing. F1 photographer Jamie Price was one of the people heard laughing in the clip that has now gone viral, and he added some context on Twitter. The FIA post a full transcript of the post-race press conference on their website, which is available for anyone to read. The F1 website posts it as well. For the written press, there is normally more value to be gained from getting impromptu and exclusive interviews with team principals and drivers in the paddock. Especially after such a chaotic race, all of the press would rather try to get exclusive soundbites rather than listen live to something they could read before writing their pieces in the evening. Verstappen, of course, knew this. He's been to enough post-race press conferences to know exactly who was going to be there, and won't have been surprised at all to see no British press in the room. However, he saw a chance to take a shot and executed it perfectly. His comment swept through social media and got under the skin of some of the top dogs at Sky Sports. But perhaps the most surprising comment from the weekend came from the under-pressure FIA steward Johnny Herbert, who has been accused of anti-Verstappen bias. Before I talk about that though, if you're enjoying the video and want to catch more daily F1 news, make sure to like and subscribe to F1 Reverse. Thanks a lot. Starting with the Sky Sports presenter's response to Verstappen's joke, David Croft and Will Buxton both took to social media feeling the need to explain themselves. Crofty received a lot of criticism for how he spoke about Verstappen during the Grand Prix. Over the closing laps, as it became clear that Max would go on to win comfortably, he balanced every compliment he made of the performance with a comment about Max's dirty driving and how it ruined his legacy. Speaking on Twitter after the Grand Prix, Crofty, who is usually present in Thursday's press conference, explained why he was not at the Sunday press conference. Sometimes there's more to a story than just a soundbite or a chance to attack people for perception of British bias. For my part, as it's a press conference for written media only, I never attend the post-race conference no matter who's won. The F1 commentator continued by saying, "Thursday press conferences are different. They're for broadcast and written media together. Just to help people understand, and the quotes from this are freely available to all media, hence other journalists might be off gathering other stories at the time, in the knowledge that they won't miss anything said at the FIA post-race presser." Verstappen will of course have known this, and his joke probably wasn't even directed at the TV media, but it clearly hit a sore spot. As many people pointed out in reply to the tweet, this doesn't explain Crofty's lambasting of Verstappen on the live commentary. Will Buxton also felt the need to reply and add context to Verstappen's joke, posting on his Twitter account saying, "I haven't been to a post-race presser in years, as I'm always on air." Max's comments about a lack of British media may have just been a sharp joke and an opportunity to hit back at the press, but it got under the skin of the Sky Sports team. While their decision to respond to Verstappen's comments was surprising, FIA steward Johnny Herbert waging into a war of words with Max's camp is far more ill-judged. Herbert has insisted he's entitled to his opinions on reigning Formula One world champion Max Verstappen as a response to criticism from the Dutchman's father Jos. The two former F1 drivers are at loggerheads after Herbert initially remarked that the time penalties dished out to the Red Bull driver during the Mexico Grand Prix would not stop Max from pushing Lando Norris off the track in the future. Jos was livid that Herbert, who was acting as an FIA race steward at the Mexican Grand Prix and the Brazilian Grand Prix, was earning money by airing his views in public, having administered the penalties, insisting that a steward shouldn't talk to the press at all and just deliver work all the time. Despite the criticisms over his dual role, Herbert insisted that his comments and personal opinions have no bearing whatsoever in his decision-making when on duty in his FIA role. "I am Johnny Herbert the steward and the professional during a race weekend, and Johnny Herbert a pundit at other times who expresses what he thinks," he told safestbettingsites.co.uk. "Everyone has an opinion. Martin Brundle has an opinion. Why can't I when I'm not at the racetrack? The racetrack has been my world for 50 years. If I do not quite agree with what I see on the racetrack, I'll say so. It's not just Max. I'll criticize anyone if I feel it's warranted. Is there any bias? No, of course not. I was not the only one to think that Max was over the top in Mexico. Lando Norris and Zach Brown thought so too. When I do speak to people on a Monday or Tuesday, that is outside my stewarding responsibilities." Using Martin Brundle as an example of why his dual role isn't a problem is a poor choice of comparison. Brundle doesn't work within the FIA, Herbert does. Pointing to McLaren team members to say that he wasn't the only person who thought Max overstepped the line is also ridiculous. Of course McLaren wanted Max punished, they're in a title battle. But as an FIA steward, he shouldn't be airing his opinions on different drivers' standards. Of course he has an opinion, everyone does. But as an officiator of the sport, that opinion should probably be kept to himself. He very well may leave those opinions at the door when he steps into his role as a steward, but by voicing those opinions to the world, he brings the decision-making of himself, the FIA, and the officiating of every race he's involved in into question. And to offer this response through a sports betting site is even more ridiculous. What do you think of the response to Verstappen's joke in Brazil? Do you have a problem with Johnny Herbert or how Verstappen is seen in the media? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and until next time, drive safe and bye for now.